y'all join me in the invocation, please? Father, we're thankful for this day. We're always grateful for an opportunity to serve you and serve our community. We pray for your wisdom and direction here today as we deliberate on the county's business. Help us to make wise choices that are a blessing to you and a blessing to everyone here. Thank you, Father, for all you do for us, how you look out for us, provide for us, and take care of all our needs. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Join me in the pledge to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. We do have a few public comment forms. We'll save that until we get to the appropriate item. Are there any announcements today? We have one proclamation here today. That's declaring April 2025 as Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month here in Harrison County. Ladies, if y'all would like to come up, you can read this or I'll do it for you, either way.
Hello, I'm Molly Lane, and I'm the Director of Programs at the Women's Center, and this is Heather Miller. So I'll go ahead. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual harassment, assault, and abuse are widespread and impact every person in this community, with an American being sexually assaulted every 68 seconds. And whereas rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment harm our community, and statistics show 1 in 5 women and 1 in 20 men have been sexually assaulted at some point in their lives. And whereas we must work together to educate our community about sexual assault prevention, supporting survivors, and speaking out against harmful attitudes and actions. And whereas with leadership and dedication, we can be successful in preventing sexual assault in East Texas by increasing education, awareness, and community involvement. And whereas the Women's Center of East Texas provided services to 232 sexual assault survivors in 2024. And whereas Harrison County strongly supports the efforts of national, state, and local partners, and of every citizen to actively engage in public and private efforts to prevent sexual assault, it's time for all of us to take appropriate action and support one another to create a safer environment for all. Now, therefore, Harrison County joins advocates and communities across the nation in playing an active role to end sexual assault, along with the United States government and state of Texas. I do hereby proclaim the month of April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Harrison County.
Very good. And we are happy to join you guys. You guys are both with the Women's Center of East Texas. We appreciate you supporting our ladies here in Harrison County and, of course, all of East Texas. Thank you for what you're doing, and we're happy to support you.
Absolutely. Would we be able to get a picture with y'all?
Be happy to.
Okay.
You guys want to come down here and I'll make a picture right here.
Everybody look up here, ready? 1, 2, 3.
a couple of items I have under announcements. Many of you have noticed, if you've been around downtown for more than an hour, you've probably heard our bell is ringing again, and a lot of good public comments about that. Y'all are clapping for Brad Thomas, who, thank you, Brad, got that back to working for us, and the Harrison County Historical Courthouse Preservation Council. They paid the bill on that, so they'll be here next, at our next meeting. We can personally thank them. Also, you guys know there's a lot of discussion about our water here in East Texas, and there is a public hearing coming up May the 14th, 10 a.m. in Pittsburgh. This is from the Northeast Texas Regional Water Planning Group. They're working on a initially prepared water plan, and will be using and developing approved regional water plan for the Northeast Texas Water Planning Group that includes a number of counties and our county. So I have some information that has some QR codes. If any of you guys are interested in that, you can come up here and scan this QR code afterwards and get that information. Any other announcements from anybody? Again, I mentioned public comments will be on the appropriate item. We do have a quorum present today. Present voting, Precinct 1's Commissioner Hatfield, Precinct 2, Commissioner Timmons, Sims presiding, Precinct 3's Commissioner Coos, and Precinct 4, Commissioner Ebarb. It's 9:08 a.m. We'll call to order our meeting. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Harrison County Commissioners Court. Today is April the 8th, 2025. We're in the courtroom of the historic courthouse here in Marshall, Texas. Our first item today comes from our auditor. It's administrative report. Good morning, Ms. Haynes.
Good morning. You should have a copy of the February 2025 report. Please keep in mind these are unaudited and unadjusted financials. As of February 2025, we have a fund balance of $45,028,884. You'll note that with the receipt of the confinement grant, we no longer have a negative fund balance in Fund 490, so we're all happy about that. On page 2 is a summary of the general fund. As of February 2025, we have collected $23,502,423 in comparison to $22,849,170 in FY24. That's an increase of $653,253, and if you'll note, it's primarily within our property taxes. From an expenditure standpoint, we have spent $13,317,584 in comparison to $10,070,821. That's an increase of $3,246,763. You'll note that the majority of it is within the public safety sector, and that is our Motorola Communications. We paid quite a bit on that so far. On page 3 is the net position for the general fund. As of February 2025, we have collected $10,184,839 more in revenue than what we have spent in comparison to $12,778,349 in FY24. On page 4 is a summary of the Road and Bridge Fund. As of February 2025, we have collected $5,427,132 in comparison to $5,146,268. That's an increase of $280,864, and again, primarily it's split between our property taxes and our license and permits. From an expenditure standpoint, we have spent $2,390,977 in comparison to $1,786,465 in FY24. That is primarily the seal coat that we paid in early FY25. From a net position, we have collected $3,036,154 more in what we have spent versus $3,359,804 in FY24. On page 6 through 10, I'm sorry, page 6 through 11 is a summary of revenue by department in comparison to budget. On pages 12 through 16, 16, I'm sorry. The numbers are a bit too small, I'm gonna have to increase that font. On pages 12 through 16 is a summary of expenditures in comparison to budget by department. On page 17 is our debt position. We have $1,086,696 in debt, and that is related to the tower in Harlton area. And that's all I have for my report.
Any questions about Ms. Haynes' financial report for February 2025?
This debt obligation on the tower, that's, once it's up and installed, that we'll get a big portion of that back, won't we? Or is that actually what we're spending locally?
No, sir, that, we have the SERI grant is for $750,000.
Right. Right, but it'll come in from that 1 point, a little over $1 million.
Yes, so we'll have about, my memory's correct, about $336,000 that would be responsible for the counties.
And we'd expect to pay that off this next budget cycle, so that there will have no debt after.
Yeah, the expectation that you all had discussed previously is to go ahead and pay the entire debt off in February of '26, because we will be receiving the grant at that point.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. We'll move on to item number 1, consideration and approval regarding line item transfers.
I am requesting transferring $18,104.75 between line items.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
On this, Constable Precinct 2, in a line item, there's one for auto maintenance for $411.25, and then there's another one for the same amount that's office supplies, so it's a total of $822.50. How did that happen?
Actually, what it's doing is moving it from $411 from auto maintenance to office supplies. So it's only $411.
Oh, okay.
So that's all it's doing, is transferring it from one line item to another line
I
item.
understand now. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions about our line item transfers? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Timmons, second by Commissioner Ebarb. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0. Item number 2 is consideration and approval of payment of regular bills.
There is a correction in the amount on the bills. The report identifies $302,245.46. On page 3, within the auditor's travel line item, both invoices to the Hilton and College Station should be $552. One of them is $522. So what I'm requesting approval for is $30 more than what the report shows. So what I'm requesting approval for is $302,275.46. I will provide an updated report once this is approved.
You guys have had a chance to review all of the expenses in this report. Are there any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve payment of our regular bills plus $30 to correct the typo here on the travel for the auditor's office?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Ebarb. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0. Item number 3 is consideration and approval for payroll, March 28, 2025.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Coos. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0. Number 4 is consideration and action subject to ratification in open court the payment to Texas Juvenile Justice Department for $20,435.84 for the refund of the salary adjustment due to the county not spending all the funds.
This is a ratification for a refund for the state of Texas for the Willoughby Department. What happened is that they received a salary adjustment grant just like the DA's office and the sheriff's office. Well, due to attrition and the restrictions of the grant, we could only use it for an adjustment to salary. We were not able to spend the entire amount, so we had to refund it.
So this couldn't have been used for the overtime that they paid when they were short-handed?
We had enough in vacant positions to cover that.
I know, but we couldn't have covered it with the grant.
He just hates to send it back.
I just hate to send it to you.
I understand.
Thank you for explaining the tight restrictions on that to me yesterday. I fully understand now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coos, second by Commissioner Ebarb. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0. Number 5 is consideration and approval of the business associate agreement with Gabriel Roeder Smith and Company to provide Harrison County a GASB 7475 OPEB actuarial valuation for FY 25 and 26 and authorization for the county judge to execute said business associate agreement.
This is our annual, our biannual agreement with GRS to obtain a valuation for our optional pension and other benefits. It's for the health care that we have for our retirees, and we are required to do this.
Do we put this out for bids? Is this the only bid we got, or? This is
We
who-
did not put this out to bid.
It's just who we normally use?
Yes. This is a niche market, so not everyone does the valuation of this, but it is under 50,000, so we're not required to go out for bid.
Okay. It's 16,000, sure. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Timmons, second by Commissioner Hatfield. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, Road and Bridge Department. Morning, Mr. Davis.
Good morning, Your Honor. Commissioners, how y'all doing this morning?
We'll first have administrative report.
Well, we had a pretty good weather event this weekend, had several roads flooded, several washouts, bunch of trees down. So we're in the process of patching everything up. We did have a couple of roads we had to block off and completely close till the water went down. I think we had one up on your precinct 4. It actually cut the road in two. So we had to get a crew up there and patch it up. So had crews out all weekend, most of the night. So we kept everything open. Everything's being patched up. So we're in pretty good shape right now. Still cleaning up trees, of course.
Is that everything's back open now?
Yes, sir. Everything's back open.
Any questions for Mr. Davis? Do you have anything else to share with us on your?
Yes, sir. Right now, Caddo Lake is on the rise. Right now, it's at 171.5. So it's right there at moderate flood stage. It's supposed to rise up to 174.5 by Friday. So we're in the process of getting everything ready to get around the Caddo Lake area and barricade stuff off, help the people any way we can.
What's the pool height?
Right now, it's at 171.5.
That's what it is now. What's considered?
Flood stage is
Flood stage.
172.
171.5 is action stage, 172 is moderate.
Moderate flood.
It's forecast to get to 174. 174.5 is a moderate flood event.
hopefully we don't get no more rain.
Yep. Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Davis, how is our warranty work going with the subcontractor? I've been down there a couple of times, and it looks like we're making some improvements.
Yes, he got down there right before the rain hits and did a good portion of the work, and he had to pull back when the weather hit, but he'll be back in there probably this week. He should finish it up.
You seem to be happy with it?
Yes, the work he's doing is pretty
Thank you.
good.
She coming to Airline,
Yes. And I'll inform you when he gets there.
Macedonia.
Yes.
Thank you, Luke.
No other questions. We'll move on to item number 1, consideration and approval of personnel changes for Harrison County Road and Bridge.
We've had one termination since our last court meeting.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Timmons. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0. Item number 2 is consideration and approval of the utility applications submitted to Harrison County Road and Bridge Department as follows. This is all from Spectrum Gulf Coast. Spectrum is a subsidiary of Charter Communications, who's doing a huge amount of fiber work, broadband installation. I'm gonna run through all these roads right quick that they're working on. These are all right-of-way agreements.
Yeah, we got up on board at these last 2 weeks from Spectrum, and I know there's dozens of them here, but they've all been reviewed, and they do meet our standards outlined in our utilities applications.
And you guys, the court created a committee for our water, rural water supplies. And so I already had a complaint from one of them about not this particular contractor, but contractors are constantly, mainly the fiber guys, running into our fresh water lines from our rural water supplies. Just about the time they get it fixed, they hit it again. And so it's pretty aggravating. So I'm planning a meeting with the contractors who are doing the boring and our newly formed committee so that they can kind of coordinate and work together and hopefully avoid so
Well, they're
many.
doing their one calls, and the one call locate everything except rural water lines. So it's up to the rural water companies to be out there with them, you know.
So we need better coordination, and that's what we'll work on. But here's the good news, a whole list of roads that'll be bored or the right-of-way used for fiber. Sioux Belle Lake Road, Buchanan Road, Buckville Road West, Woodlawn Estates Road, Macedonia Road, Red Fox Road, White Fox Road, Woodlawn Estates, Baker Bridge, Blue Fox, Chaparral Ranch, Gray Fox, Hollis Road, Bertha Jackson, Alice Callaway, Blackjack, Pine Tree Terrace, Tolliver Road, Sioux Belle Lake Road, Jewel Gooch Road, Lee Island Road, Log Road, Old Lee Island Road, Sioux Belle Lake Road again, Holmes Road, Standpipe Road, and Hatley Road. Lots of progress. We're happy to see some of our counties beginning to be covered by fiber for broadband service. Any questions or comments about these utility applications? Only problem I see, none of these roads were close to me.
Or me.
Look like they all in four, except a couple.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ebarb, second by Commissioner Coos. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Number 3 is consideration and approval of private road issuance order number 88 for private road number 3333 running south off FM 968, approximately 460 feet west of intersection of FM 968 and private road 3441, which is Gum Valley Circle, located in precinct 3.
Yes, sir, this is at the request of EDCOG.
And so you're good with it, meets all your
Yes, sir.
requirements.
It meets all the requirements to be issued a private road number.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Ebarb. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0.
Have y'all heard from Ed Coggy, or are we getting close to the end of them doing the study and taking care of our duplicate roads throughout the county? Do you-
It's work in progress.
That have come up, so far they have not. It's gonna involve changing lots and lots and lots of addresses, but anyway. So we kind of pushed it to the back burner. It's not an issue right now. It's something that will be addressed as needed.
But you might want to explain why this is happening.
Sir,
You might want to explain why this is happening.
because our roads weren't labeled correctly the first time.
Well,
Yes, sir.
our 911 hadn't been evaluated or studied in years, and what they found out when we changed over to our EdCog 911 was that we had multiple roads that were duplicate all across the county, for protection, whether it be ambulance, fire, or sheriff's department. Like 911, they didn't know what address to send to, so some of these were on the extreme east side versus the extreme west, so it's very easily could have been, when this is done, it's gonna make it so much better for, response time for the sheriff's department, the volunteer fire departments and everything, and the dispatch be able to actually dispatch where the event's happening at to get there and not be on the wrong side of the county on Lake Street when it was in Halton on Lake Street or vice versa. So, it is gonna be a positive for the whole county and all our citizens once this is done. And regretfully, there is gonna be some changing of some duplicate stuff, and that's what the process is happening now.
Yep. Very good point. Any other questions or comments before we move on to item number 4? That's consideration and approval of private road issuance number 89 for private road 1316 running west off Taylor Road, which is County Road 1324, approximately 600 feet north of the intersection of Cargill Road East, which is County Road 1301, and Taylor Road, which is County Road 1324, located in Precinct 1.
Yes, sir. This was the previously approved El Rancho Rajos subdivision, and it does meet all the specifications for private road number.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Timmons. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0. Item number 5 is consideration and action to enter into an agreement with Brett Meisenheimer for the purchase and mining of clay at $1 per cubic yard and iron ore gravel at $5 per cubic yard from the site on his property on months cut off in Precinct 3 to be used in the repair and maintenance of Harrison County roadways and right-of-ways.
Yeah, this is just to extend the contract we already have with him, which ended in March. So, there's still a lot of good material we need to mine.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Timmons, second by Commissioner Coos. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none,
Thank you.
motion passes. Thank you, sir. Next up from our Sheriff's Department, first we'll have administrative report. Good morning, Chief Revis.
Good morning. First report will be on the Fire Marshal's Office Environmental Health Division. Summary 3-1 to 3/31/25. Citations, warrants 3, fire inspections 6, illegal dumping cases 12, loads 8, litter picked up cubic feet 5,000, structure fires 5, 14 complaints, 3 notice of violations, 0 citations. This is under the Environmental Health Division. Inspections, 20, utility hookups, Upshur Rural, 17, utility hookups, Panola Harrison Electric, 8. Single-family permits at $360 apiece, 21 for $7,560. Commercial permit 560 apiece, 3, which totaled 1,680 for a total of 9,240. Sheriff's Office activity summary, 3-5 to 4-1, total calls for service 2,919, criminal reports taken 192, assigned cases 65, arrest HCSO 78, traffic contacts 523, mentals 4, 39 transports for 11,114 miles, civil process, legal documents received 121, served 44 personal service, 12 indictment precepts served in jail, 14 tax postings, 24 postings, county and district, 1 Harrison Central Appraisal District tax sales, total served 95, jury notices 850, jail population as of 4/2 at 10/28 was 263, 3541 contract inmates, Marion County 0, U.S. Marshal's Office 27.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments on the administrative report? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 1. This is consideration and approval of the resolution for submission of the application to Texas Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority for a grant in the amount of $112,250 with said FY26 grant year scheduled to fund in the fall of 2026 to help combat motor vehicle theft in Harrison County. Said grant is renewable annually and is an 80-20 split, with Harrison County's portion to be $22,450 the first year, and subsequent years to reduce to 20% of the $83,000, with the county portion being $16,600. Good morning, Lieutenant Mays.
Good morning, Commissioners, Judge. There you are. Before I get into that, I'd like to kind of do a little commercial, if you will, for KMHT and the Sheriff's Department. If y'all are looking for a little Monday morning entertainment to get your week going, you should listen to KMHT at 8:30 every Monday morning. Tom McCool did a great job over the years when he was sheriff, and Sheriff Fletcher has come into his own. It's very entertaining. They always have several dumb crook episodes. Those are always entertaining. Plus, he does give all the statistics that you just got here, and plus he always brings up some of the other things that the sheriff is and the Sheriff's Department is involved in through the previous weeks. But we want to thank Ashley for that. It's a great way to start the week. But yes, we're asking the commissioners to allow us to enter into this agreement with the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority out of the state of Texas. This grant would allow us to provide some equipment and programs to help combat not only auto theft, but also some other types of crime, such as the catalytic converter thefts and so on and so forth.
I understand this was kind of a rushed deal. I appreciate you
We just
jumping on
barely
it.
found out about it, and I want to thank Charlene for holding the agenda open on time to let me rush the paperwork through.
You bet. Thank you. You guys have had a chance to review this. I know you probably spoken with Lieutenant Mays. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Timmons, second by Commissioner Ebarb. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0.
And Becky and Judge, you'll be happy to know there'll be one more login and password for you to have to keep up with.
Thank you. Next up from the county clerk, number 1, consideration and approval of the transcribed minutes of the Commissioners Court meeting on March 25, 2025. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coos, second by Commissioner Ebarb. You guys have had a chance to review those. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Next up from purchasing. Item number 1 is consideration and approval to award RFP 2025-01, our bank depository and sub-depository contract to Texas Bank and Trust, with the exception of retaining the current classification of interest and non-interest accounts per the recommendation of our purchasing agent. Ms. Darla Haynes, good morning.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Yes, I recommend that we accept this bid. We received one bid that it met all of our requirements, and we just have that one little exception that we want to keep the current, non-interest and interest-bearing accounts classified the way they are now. We don't want to change anything.
Very good. You guys have heard the information presented by Ms. Haynes. Is there a motion to approve?
I'd like to make that motion. We're really happy with that bank.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hatfield, a second by Commissioner Timmons, and we're really happy with the bank. And I thought I saw Miss Brenda Brown, and there she is hiding back there. Thank you, Miss Brown, for y'all's service. When I first came, there were a number of issues, and everybody's been really happy with Texas Bank and Trust here. Ms. Rushing.
Judge, I'd just like to say thank you to Brenda Brown, President of the Texas Bank and Trust, and her staff for all the hard work that they do. We get exceptional service from them. They're always working diligently with us, and we appreciate all your employees and your staff.
I can second that.
Yep.
I was in the treasurer's office, and they were amazing.
You got a motion and a second there, Ms. Brown.
I've not heard any complaints from any of our departments, and
Yeah,
everything's been very good about their customer service.
yeah, we agree. Thank y'all. So we have a motion and a second to approve this item number one for the award of our bank depository and sub-depository contract to Texas Bank and Trust. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0. Next up, under new business, item number one is consideration and action regarding the approval of the animal shelter interlocal agreement between Harrison County and the City of Marshall pursuant to the approval and execution of the interlocal agreement by the Marshall, Texas City Commission. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Timmons, second by Commissioner Coos. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0. Item number two is consideration and action regarding the request by Brad Thomas, our maintenance supervisor, regarding the upgrade of the jail elevator due to the elevator being broken, replacement part not available for months, with said upgrade to be, at the time we wrote this, approximately $100,000 to $115,000 as a repair. Needs to be done immediately with approval of a budget amendment if needed for the upgrade. Morning, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, right now, we're out of compliance with jail standards. The elevators are our only means to get the inmates to rec. So this is really a must thing. Like I said, it's 3 weeks out getting this one particular computer board in. He told me if it would have been one of 3 other boards, we wouldn't even be able to get them at all. So I asked him to give me a modernization upgrade, and this was Thursday. I was asked him for a bid. He told me it would take a while to get a bid, but just roughly told me between $105,000 and $115,000. Calls me back Friday, told me he made a big mistake. He sent me a capital plan this morning. It's something just to budget for, and it came in at $285,000.
So this is the information Mr. Thomas provided for us this morning. You should have a copy
So,
of that in front of you.
He did say that it could be, a few $1,000s either side of this.
Okay.
Pretty big mistake.
Huh? Hell, he thought it was a hydraulic elevator until he talked to the guy that actually comes over and the tech that works on it. So that's a big difference.
So there's multiple boards in this elevator,
Oh, well, yes, 15 or 20.
so we could end up replacing one and then next week one of the other.
Go out
Or
and-
go out and can't.
Exactly. Yes, sir. And they've been having trouble with this particular elevator for a while, a lot of different stuff. We've just done the door upgrade on the elevators in the courthouse, and it really helped it. This will be part of it on this particular elevator as well. And this elevator here's got doors on both sides of it. So, and when they do this upgrade, they have to go in and change every sensor inside the elevator shaft all the way from the ground to the fourth floor, change out all the doors and all that, so.
I have a question, Ms. Haynes. We have enough money in our permanent improvements to cover this. But I don't know that we budgeted for that. Is there a budget amendment needed for this?
There would be a budget amendment needed.
To draw funds from our permanent improvement reserves into our current budget. And we've got that mentioned in here, so if we pass this item number 2, it'll be approving this upgrade of, and I'd like to change this item from approximately 100 to 115,000 to approximately 285,000 with the approval of a budget amendment. So we'll go ahead and approve your budget amendment to take that amount, whatever it comes to be, from our permanent improvements and put into our current budget.
Let me ask you a question. He's already said this could be $1,000, $2,000 either side of this. What are you gonna do if we do this amendment today at 285 and he comes in at 287 or 288?
That's why it says approximately on
Yeah, I think that, yeah.
Okay.
You know, when the judge and I first talked about it, he said we could come in and do a ratification or something, so.
Well, and we could do it that way. We could do, well, we probably should do a ratification. That way we get the exact contracted amount.
Yes, sir.
So we're approving that we're willing to do this, and we'll get the details from you when you
Yes, sir.
get ready to make those repairs.
Well, I've asked him to get this to me just as quick as we can, so.
All right. Item number 2, I'd like to make, adjust that motion to say approximately 285,000 instead of the 100 to 115,000. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ebar, second by Commissioner Timmons, and that's with the adjustment, increasing that to 285,000. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. This is actually item number 3 under new business. This is a presentation by Benton Blaine of Cushwake for his client, Peregrine Energy, regarding the proposed energy storage system in Harrison County. Good morning, Mr. Blaine.
Good morning, everybody. If I'm limping a little bit, I got a back brace. I got a 4-year-old finally bested me, so just bear with me today. You got me good.
May I bring these up to you?
Sure, please.
We like pictures, so I got some handouts for you.
Thank you.
Judge, Commissioners, my name's Benton Blaine with Cushman Wakefield. I'm their consultant. I'm going to have him introduce himself. He's going to do most of the talking today, and I'm going to stay in the background.
Gentlemen, my name is Jake Hitchings. I work for Peregrine Energy Solutions. I'm the project manager for the project here in the county. I got to Peregrine from the United States Marine Corps, and they've taught us to work in a very specifically straightforward way, and that's how I like to come into these.
We'll start at the top. Today, kind of what we want to cover is just a high level, what is the ESS system. We're not going to spend a ton of time in that. We're going to tackle what's the difference between their systems and some of the other ones you've heard about. And then specifically, we're going to get into this site, what it looks like, feels like, and would operate. So why don't you give a little background on the company and what an ESS system is?
So, gentlemen, Peregrine got started, our Chief Executive Officer, Hagan Lee, got together some of the best professionals from across all of energy. That's oil and gas, some renewables, folks that worked in the governing bodies for the transmission lines. And with combined experience, this team has put together dozens of projects across the country. So that second page, it's got a little bit of information about the background for everybody. Then I'd like to talk about a little bit about what an energy storage system is. So the basis for these is to hook it up to the grid, and in times of lower demand, generally overnight, you can charge the energy system, and then in the morning, demand spikes. Whenever people are starting to come home from work, demand spikes because there's just more use of energy. So we can redeploy that energy during those times of higher demand. It helps levelize that cost across a local area because we're buying from the local area and those electrons are going back in at the time they're more needed. So if you go to the next page, here's a breakdown of how we design our systems. So you've got a substation. It works the exact same way as anything you might see here in town on the corner. There's the lines coming in through transformers and going back out. You got the actual battery systems themselves. Those are what they look like, those shipping containers. They're all individualized and controlled independently. You got the battery management system, and that's what really monitors the health of these. It looks at every single little piece of the battery inside to make sure that they are performing correctly, that they're charging and discharging the right way. And we use a specific system to ours that's American-made, it is American software and operated here in the States. We're very proud of that. That is not true of all of our competitors. Beyond that, you've got inverters. That's just high voltage equipment that you see across transmission networks everywhere, and an energy management system that controls that flow back and forth into the grid and the project. As Benton said, these projects often get lumped in with renewables, and I think that's because it's a little bit more new than some of the other things. Everybody knows what a pump jack is, but this isn't a renewable energy system. We are energy agnostic. It works with everyone. We work very well with natural gas plants and with coal plants because whenever those times of high demand come up and you have to ramp up the production at those facilities, it's quite expensive. We can put one of these in, it's fully charged, and we can deploy that energy at any given time whenever it's needed in the market, and it can just start to trim the top cost off of your really, really expensive days.
Yeah. Battery storage systems and more specifically in energy storage systems, the idea is 100 years old. Most of your hydro dams are designed to do the exact same thing. If you live near a lake, you'll notice that first thing in the morning or afternoon, that water will fluctuate. That's exactly what they're doing. They're letting more water out to generate more electricity when they need it. The only difference is instead of doing it with the giant lake, they do it with batteries. But the premise is you fill them up in the middle of the night in the summer when the wind's blowing, municipal buildings, factories are closed, there's plenty of excess power. Where you need power is that peaking in the morning. Every building, every factory, every business, and everybody's home AC is still running. Same thing in the afternoon. That's your peaker rates. Your alternative is you end up building a power plant to run it 2 hours a day. So on scale, the general idea of what they're doing and what you'll see across the state of Texas is, and it's a worst kept secret, power rates will continue to go up, but with enough of these, they will go up slower because you're not having to build that multi-billion-dollar gas plant and run it just for that 2 hours of peaking time. Go ahead.
Okay, gentlemen, if you want to go to the next page, these are some components of what go into each of these energy storages. So ours come in prepackaged containers that are outdoor rated. They are made to be outside, and that's an industry standard now. That is the safest way to do it, and I mean they are outdoor rated. These go in hurricane areas and tornado areas. They're ready to take a lightning strike, and they're tailored to each individual location that they go in. So ours, we use exterior access only. No one will ever be inside of one of these because whenever you open it up, it looks kind of like a server rack. These are modular in that each of those battery cells that goes together inside, that battery management system I told you about, we monitor every single one of those individually. So if they're not acting right, we can isolate it, we can turn it off, tech comes out, pulls out the one that's not acting right, it gets replaced, everything is as it should be. So there at the end, you see on that top picture, you've got electrical cabinets that control AC, DC, and these are all individually, they've all got their own HVAC. So should there be more sunlight on one end or the wind is blowing different on the other end, you can control the temperature inside each one for what it needs, and it'll keep it within tolerance.
And on that modular aspect, so once these are operational, they'll have a contract to where they can have boots on the ground within an hour, right? So if they ever see something going wrong with the cell, and we'll kind of get into that here in a minute, it's not a situation where you have to say, oh, we need to keep running it because we got to make money, because we'll have to replace millions of dollars of equipment. Person's there within 1 hour. Within 2 hours, he can pull out, it almost looks like a suitcase, a deck. That pops right out, another one pops back in. If something's malfunctioning in 2 hours, we can have it replaced, swapped out with a better working part.
And to expand on that, it's not to say you can't keep running. You can shut down individual ones of these if they're not performing correctly. That is what sets the systems we put together at Peregrine apart from our competitors. We use the best things available to control these and to monitor them to make it this is the correct way to do it. Fire protection, again, that's going to be individualized to each of those containers, and that is gas control. It's strobes for contact outside, heat and smoke sensors. It's not one big system that is either on or off for the entire plant. Those are individualized to each of those containers so that should there be an issue somewhere, you can identify exactly where it is.
There would also be in coordination between your fire chief and fire marshal. There'll be a response plan, and we'll get to more in a minute. There's a Knox box. Your fire chief, fire team will be trained both on the technology right when it rolls out, and then annually they get an update as well. And we'll get into, you know, the what ifs in a minute, but that's something that the company kind of gets in front of. And we're about to talk about this situation. This is a 1 in multi-thousand chance, but if you Google it, that's going to be your concern. So we'd rather just get in front of that.
So, gentlemen, next page, we can start talking about this site specifically. So, 300 megawatts intended to be able to discharge for 4 continuous hours. 300 megawatts is a good size. That's going to translate to be able to power roughly 120,000 homes for 4 hours. Now, these systems are pacemakers for the grid. They're not defibrillators. Just like with any other kind of energy production, should there be some kind of weather event, a transmission network can go down, and this can be separated like everything else can. But if it starts getting really hot, you know, news comes on, the state is asking everyone, hey, please turn up your thermostat this summer. You can deploy these on, I mean, at the snap of a finger. That's how fast you can turn them on and put extra power into the grid to make sure that, you know, no one actually turns their AC down, that we can meet that demand.
Okay. They generate their own heat, so if it's cold, you get a cold snap, free snap, icing, snow, they still operate. So the most recent project I did, you know, we've done enough of these, you start to see some interesting things. Biggest advocate we've ever had, adjacent landowner, hospital and nursing home, right? Because you think, well, don't put this beside one. They loved it. Why? They have a weather event, that hospital and nursing home still has power. So that's why they loved it. They did their own independent research on everything about it, and they loved it because it's a mini power plant right beside them. And that's their biggest concern is they go out, they only have a set number of time before those defibrillators and the oxygen turns off. So that ended up, they sold us the land, and that was the advocate for the project.
So with this, you can see the outline for the land that we are prepared to build on. If you go directly west from there, everything is owned by the Perky Power Plant. So we're going from our land, building our transmission line directly across theirs. Makes for a very easy partnership with the organization. Our general timeline right now should have design and the majority of engineering done by the end of this year, and mobilizations, we're planning on starting construction by the end of 2026. There's going to be a lot of grading and dirt work to do before equipment arrives early the next year. So once we have pads laid down and piles driven, we can start actually setting everything up. Commercial operation is we are hooked up to the grid. Everything has been tested. The plant is balanced, and it's ready to start trading power there right before summer of 2028.
So your fencing, your grading, your concrete, your shrubs, that's all going to be local contractors. Most of your electricians, because it's pretty specialized, they're going to travel in. So they're going to spend somewhere between 6 months and a year. There's about 100 people on the job site working for about a year-ish, year and change to construct one of these. So obviously the ones that fly in, they're going to be staying at your hotels and eating out as well during that construction period. But there'll be a mix. Some are going to travel in, and then some of your contractors are going to be local. This site, you know, if you're looking at it, and again, we put these in residential areas. They're going into downtown New Orleans, Dallas, Indianapolis. But this site, we really don't even have to have that discussion too much. I've got former coal plant to my west. I've got the mine to the east, and Commissioner Coos, you're going to be familiar with that site, I assume. We've got pine trees on really 4 sides of it, but after that, you've got a quarry, and then you've got a coal power plant. What I did ask him to do, and this is a little unique, we generally don't have this discussion, but you know, this is a full disclosure company. I only have a few of them, but this is one. I think most of that is every project manager that I work with is either Army, Marines. I think there's some Air Force guys in there, but they take the more cushier city jobs. But not to knock them. But I asked him to do a breakdown, right? So you did have thermal runaway, which is a really fancy word for fire. You did have one of those in the industry. So what I wanted Jake to do is break down what is the difference between that, right? Because if you Google battery fire, you're going to find one. What is the difference between that and this? Because they're not the same. So give an overview, and again, we're happy to expand on this and talk through it, but give us just the high level.
High level, I want to point out two fires that are more recent in the industry. They were both in California. One was the Moss Landing 1, the other one was Escondido Fire. Both of those facilities were built 2020 or prior, and they got permitted and approved sometime in 2018, which means engineering design was done 2016, 2017. We are generations of technology past what they were designing those facilities with. Both of those were put inside of buildings. That is not the way that we conduct, because whenever they're inside of buildings, it gives an opportunity for what could be flammable gases to collect inside there, and it's not safe for first responders to go in. These should be outdoor, and that's why we build them outdoor. They also use a subpar type of battery chemistry. They use a nickel manganese cobalt that is more energy dense, and it's cheaper. You can fit more electrons in the same volume than you can in the ones that we use, because you need less land. You might be able to cut down on the total number of containers that you need. We spend the extra money and we use it. We use a lithium iron phosphate because it is less volatile. It is so much less volatile. They don't use it in your cell phones. They don't use it in your cars. This is made to be there and operate for the next 20 years and get augmented a little bit to last for 20 more after that.
Yeah. And it's not the exact same as a helium versus a hydrogen balloon. They're both balloons, but one of them says good year round and has had 100 years working good, and the other one didn't. The other piece with this, so the battery standards have been updated 3 times since the permitting and design of Moss Landing, right? So by the time yours in construction, we'll probably be 4th generation of battery standards past that. Other difference, targeting American-made supply chain, both on the tech and the batteries themselves. So I don't want to underestimate that, but that matters. That absolutely matters. Other pieces with them and with this company particularly, it's the best and brightest of the industry. United Laboratories, that's the group, the certification group that stamps every electronic. So if you tear your phone apart, there'll be a UL stamp somewhere inside of this phone. The gentleman that wrote the safety standards for United Laboratories, how they review batteries, now works at Peregrine. That's what they've done with every component. That's why you see the oil and gas, the Total Energy guys, the NextEra guys. NextEra being the spinoff from Florida Power and Light, but they do a whole bunch of Texas work. That's where you see those different individuals and groups kind of coming in to making this project. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, if you want to go to the next page, you can see a general layout of, this is very early engineering, but general layout, how we're going to fit it into that space. And then the green line is going to be how we are going to move across that perky land.
Bell's working. Sounds good.
Thank you. And tie into the north end of the perky substation there.
Yeah. So other pieces, questions that we get asked commonly. Does it make a noise? It does. You won't hear it outside of the property, but each one has the equipment like a mini split on it. If you stand beside it, it'll sound like an AC unit makes a small hum. We ran the studies. I actually bought a decibel meter off Amazon when they tested one of these, because we went right into a residential neighborhood. Can't hear it. At the property line, can't hear it. They don't make a smell. They'll use dark sky lighting, but that's only when maintenance is occurring. Otherwise, no light pollution, no noise pollution, no smell. Not like a wind turbine, right? They're not 200 foot tall. These are 8-foot batteries on a pad. So you'll have a fence in the front. It's specifically in this location.
Go ahead and flip to that last page. This is a rendering of another project that we're working on here in Texas. If you'll notice, we've got service tech there at the gate. You're standing there at eye level looking at the fence. You're not going to see them.
No.
If you see them from far enough away that you look down into the area, they get mistaken for self-storage an awful lot.
Yeah, self-storage is very common, what people ask if that's what that is. Otherwise, in the front, what we propose is on that first fence, because if you catch it just right off that road, you'll be able to see the fence, put slats in that. You know, and most of that is just so you can't see it at all. Ideally, we don't want people, you know, shooting them, kids throwing rocks at them, so if they don't know it's there, that's the best way to do it. They really sit there, they make a slight hum, and they pay property taxes. It's pretty much what they do.
Could you talk about if there's any environmental pollution?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So, some studies that came out of the Moss Landing fire and that Escondido fire that happened show that whenever water's used on these kind of situations, first of all, you don't put water directly on top of one of these. It's hot. It's going to burn itself out because it's only got a certain amount of fuel inside.
It does sound counterintuitive. Let it burn.
Let it
In
burn.
less than a day, that one will be gone.
The fire
That's the
department's
best
gonna
way to
show
get rid of
up,
it.
they're gonna spray water on the containers next to it to keep them cool. And the EPA and American Clean Power both found that that water, the runoff from that, whenever tested, it's indistinguishable from rainwater, because as soon as you get outside of the actual fire, the gases and any kind of debris from it aren't water soluble, they don't interact. We'll have some very specific site cleanup to do should something like that occur, and that's the only area that's affected. But we want to double down on that. We'll have stormwater retention and detention, and there's a third-party organization that's prepared to be able to come and do water extraction and cleanup from our retention and detention ponds to make sure that it doesn't reach anything else.
So the goal is triple redundancies on every piece. So
Is
it
it
does.
is this paved?
No, so you'll have crushed, basically like a hard gravel, and that's what because your fire marshal's gonna want at least hard gravel for a loop road, like a fire loop that goes around it. Otherwise, it's gonna be like a coarse aggregate. We don't want grass inside our fence line. The same reason we don't want outside grass fire coming in is what we're doing. So it'll be all aggregate on the inside.
Does it have a retainer wall built all around site? I've noticed some of y'all's projects they did.
So that's going to depend on the engineering requirement site to site, just based on how the ground is built. It doesn't.
That site should balance, it's pretty flat.
Well, it's got to flow downhill regardless.
Oh, yeah, they'll cut it to go to the retention pond. The water, they'll grade it, so
So
when the
nothing
water.
would leave that site and migrate into a creek or a stock pond or,
Yes, sir, that's
for
correct.
that matter, the lake over in Turkey.
Correct. So we've got a study, happy to share that study, by the way. That was done, US EPA, California EPA, share that. It's a dull read, but it's got good information in it. If it does leak into there, it doesn't go into the groundwater, it's not a pollutant. But we'll also collect it on our site anyways, and we'll remediate that water on our site
So
anyways.
your retention ponds they'll be lined,
Yes, sir. they will.
basically.
Yes, sir.
Where
they
it
will be.
can't migrate into the below.
So
And we don't
around-
use water on a general day.
Yeah.
You know, anyways, there's not water flowing through the site, we're not watering grass, anything like that.
But you gonna have tons of water in the event that something comes up.
That's
and
correct.
one of them catches up.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to flow somewhere.
Yeah, and we hope it's never used.
Well, we do too, but,
Yeah.
but let's be real, I mean. What about, you said something about lightning, so they're grounded?
Yes, sir.
Each one of them's grounded?
Yeah,
Also, have you done a study on, the health of the people that live around these?
Yes, sir. That was part of the study done by the EPA post both of those fires out in California. They found no cause for harm to the public outside of that, the fire location, which will require that immediate remediation. Outside, like anywhere away from
fence
that,
line.
absolutely not.
yeah. On those, happy to share that study with you as well.
What code do y'all follow, the NFPA, the 855? What year code are y'all designing and building from?
It's on the 2023 right now. That's the most recent, sir.
Wouldn't surprise me, kinda expecting another to come out.
They update that every 3 years,
Right.
and we work off of the most recent.
But they also say that addition is the 24 is fixing to come out, so I mean, it'd be interesting to know what the differences between the 23 and the 24 are gonna be.
Yeah. One of the issues with Moss Landing you were talking about too is, they designed their technology to assume every battery was new. The battery, just like your cell phone battery degrades slowly over time, they're designed for that. But that was a tech issue that came up. The industry's gonna learn from it. Certainly was a black eye, but a great learning opportunity. Really break down, hey, what goes into the water, what goes into the air? You know, how do we prevent this from ever happening again? Different technology type, kind of different company ethos, different, country of origin for manufacturing. And it's a shame that it happens, but you definitely learn more from your losses than you do your wins. And I think the industry as a whole will take a step back and figure out what happened there.
As a company, Paraguayan or whoever, because this has got a different name, I guess, Warsaw, whatever it was. How many projects have y'all completed currently up to date? Of these battery storage? Because when I read about the company, this side of it actually didn't come into existence till April of 2022. Y'all were in the turbine and the solar, but when you look up for the best, it says that it was founded by the Hagen Lee in April of 2023.
Yeah, that's when the battery arm was created. Company itself, divisions longer than that. Peregrine, when they created the battery arm, they took the best and brightest from everybody that was doing that in the industry, put it in the Peregrine, that one going. A lot of companies doing it out there today, got a couple under construction. Certainly they are just holistically behind schedule. Connecting to the grid takes a lot longer than it used to. A lot of the projects that we're finishing up and starting construction now should have been in construction 18 months ago. To give you an idea on that, SPP, traditionally, you could connect to the grid in somewhere between 8 to 12 months. This one has been in the interconnection is this a 22?
It's a 22.
Application for this went in 2022. Doesn't matter whether you're a gas plant, we've been working on this project since 2022. Doesn't matter if you're a gas plant, solar, nuclear, coal, anything, it's that backlog.
So this is the first?
No, sir. Peregrine, for Peregrine, our first is under construction in Houston right now. Our team has built dozens of these under different company names.
Dallas will break ground any day.
Where's the Gillespie County project at?
It's in Harper, Texas.
I know, but I mean, is it started?
Dirt work has started, sir.
Yeah. And so on that one, that county's got a couple in there, and so they basically did a pause and say, let's build these couple, see how it works before we let any more.
What kind of resistance did y'all have in Crawford County, down at Gillespie County?
That has been very similar to a lot of other places where we're getting caught up with the name of green energy. There was a big push in that for a long time. Now there's pushback on that. And in that county, batteries have just been collected with the green energy.
Can you also speak on the economic benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. And shame we didn't bring that up in the bin, but, and to that question, some counties, it's open arms, love to have it. We love the backup support on power, because there's some counties we're going into that know that brownouts are on their future, and this kind of solves that issue. We've got some that we do get caught in that renewable energy, and hey, this is like solar, or this is federal, and we're somewhere stuck in the middle. To your question, number on this, right? So you've got the local contractors coming in on the front end. We've also got the sales tax and occupancy tax for the hotels for the contractors. Once you go operational, biggest benefit is going to be the property taxes. You're looking at mid $600,000 range in year one generated on property taxes. And these are designed for each module for a 40-year lifespan, but I generally use 20-year numbers just because it's easier, it's a shorter window. So you get about $8.8 million in property taxes generated off this project. Other side of that is you will have a local contract. It'll be here, it'll be Shreveport. They've got to get here within an hour to be able to service it. That'll get put out. Other side of that's too, and we see that. We'd love to see local jobs. most of my projects and what I do is manufacturing, so I'm always making that job pitch. That does go both ways, though. On a project like this, you know, we pay to train the fire chief and their team. You know, we help with the specialized equipment if they need it. You don't need any more police officers, school teachers. We don't have to expand any municipal services. The money we pay in property taxes, you're not having to up your spend to account for it, right? So that 8.8 million over 20 years, we don't expect any marginal cost on your end to increase to account for that with us coming into the community.
So you're saying over how many, 20 years, how many years?
Yeah, just the first 20 is 8.8 million in property taxes.
Well, but I mean, how are you coming up at that number? Because everything you build, if you go 10 years, when it's actually put on the roll, it's gonna decrease in value over time.
Yeah.
Or depreciation. I mean, are you allowing a depreciation of your plant itself?
We are, yeah.
Over 30 years, I mean, it's just hard to see where you're coming up with that number. It'd be easy to say that, yeah, year one's 622,000, so you multiply it times 30 and you come up with a number over 30 years, but that's not how the tax system works. I mean, we all know that.
Yeah, I've got it on a 12-year depreciation schedule. Roughly every 7 years, you see what we call augmentation. It is taking out the least performing decks and putting in brand new ones. So every time we do that, it goes back onto the tax rolls at 100%, right? So we've got 647,000 in year one. You know, by year 20, that's down to 403, and you've got 2 sets of augmentation in there. So when I say augmentation, sorry, we're getting into the weeds. Year 4, you're expecting about $25 million of the batteries to have been replaced. That's going to be your batch 1, your least performers. Year 10, another 12 million. Year 14, another 15 million in batteries. And that seems like a big number, and candidly it is, but keep in mind, there's about $375 million worth of batteries in here. So you're replacing, you know, sub 3% each time. So that's what's keeping your property tax roll. It's just boosting it back up every couple of years.
The number you're giving us now is what is just actually a county. You hadn't even determined as far as the ESD tax and the school property tax number.
That's a fully loaded based on the millage rate for that specific site. Taking what, because you don't have one in this county yet, so what we did is we pulled every county in Texas that does have one, and we looked at what their assessors were depreciating them at and putting them on the tax rolls at. Because there are several of these already operating in Texas. There's some that have been operating for years and years.
So you're saying basically, if I understand it, it depreciates, but then every 7th year when you're replacing equipment, then it goes back to 100%.
Yeah, so if we pull in a deck that's depreciated and put a new one back in, that's gonna go at its full cost basis. It'll go back to 100% of value and then start trickling down again.
So it doesn't go back to the 350 or 360, it's just what you've actually replaced over that 7-year period?
Yeah, you know, after year 1, it'll never be back at 375, but it'll trickle down and then pop back up. Yep. So, and to give you an idea, you know, I can tell you year 40. Just on the personal property, this is not, you know, your real property, you're still at $373,000 a year, even by year 40.
I don't think anybody in this room probably gonna be alive in year 40.
If there is an issue in year 40, I'm not gonna be the guy to call. I assure you
Okay,
that.
we've heard all the positive. What about, are there any drawbacks to this?
It's new.
It's new, okay.
That's the biggest one, right? 10 years from now, this is a different conversation because there's going to be one in probably every town.
So you mentioned the taxes to the county. Of course, we also have a school district and an emergency services district.
Yeah.
And thank you, Commissioner Ebarb. He put together some numbers, and he was using 365 million, not your 375.
Went back to 350.
It's back to 350, all right. So this is for the school, for Marshall ISD, based on their current rate, it'd be about 3.3 million per year
The school's always the biggest
for
winner.
the school, and
Yeah.
350,000 for the ESD, our fire department, which would be a big jump for them as well. But we'd only talked about the county part. I wanted to make sure we mentioned the others.
Yeah, absolutely. School, and especially in Texas, the way the taxes are structured, school's always gonna be the biggest winner. A couple other things that does get brought up and asked, and we always say yes, is going to meet, when we go through construction or their team project manager, something like that out. This is something that's a little different that you can do as an electrician, or get your hands on, and it does pay very well. The electricians that come in and do this make really good money. If that's something you want to come into the high school to talk about, the different things you can do as an electrician, Peregrine is a big supporter of that. Whether you work at a power plant, a lineman, installation, that's just something the country needs more of. So they're happy to come and talk in the schools about some of the different things you can do as an electrician.
So I know our high school is very involved in the CTE programs, but also here in Marshall, we have Texas State Technical College, who probably has one of the largest lineman programs in the state. And certainly we'd be happy to get you guys plugged in with them.
There'll be some of them likely working on the site, because you do end up with 2 substations associated with this having to get built.
Very good.
One quick question back to the negatives. I was hearing some talk of if something does go bad, a radius, evacuation radius.
So, sir, you'll have heard of evacuation radiuses happening in that Escondido fire and in the Moss Landing fires. Those are the big ones that were most recent. Those were precautionary, done by the city, not by emergency services. Whenever this was reviewed and the environmental people came in and checked on everything, outside of the immediate fire area, there was no risk to health or human safety. Yes, sir.
Appreciate the time today, Commissioners and Judge.
Commissioners, I want to make sure y'all get all your questions answered, and then we have 3 public comment requests here, and I'd like to hear them as well and get y'all to respond if you want
Sure.
to.
Yes, sir.
To them.
Love to.
So, Commissioners, any more questions from y'all?
Yeah, you know, you see all these projects in the Green New Deal and all that we've been hammered on. How much of these projects are y'all financing this project in-house, or is it another one of the federal grants? That's one of the concerns that I have, is that at what time frame does a company that comes into the county and build one, and do they hold it for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, and then they sell it and they're done with it and they walk off, and now we've got somebody that's bought it coming in, and we're back to square one with a partner that we don't make, maybe they're not gonna be as community oriented or district oriented or whatever. So that's a concern for me, is the decommission of one, you know, who's responsible for it? I look at this paperwork that was sent and the stuff, and when you look under, you know, there's not a lot of protection for the county into the 30-year future that you're looking at when you're talking about a company that's under a LLC, that in the event something happens and they come in and either the cost to upgrade is too great or it's not doing what they projected.
Yeah.
So they end up selling it or walking away from it, or either file bankruptcy, and then we've got a site over there that's not decommissioned, and somebody in the future, whether it be local, county, state, or federal, is gonna have to figure out, what are you gonna do with 40 acres of containers with batteries? You know, that's a concern.
That's a great question, yeah.
Yes, sir. So Peregrine Energy, we have a private equity capital backer, and we are building these to be an independent power producer.
Or long-term hold.
We are building these to operate them for the lifetime of the project, and I am here to be the conduit. I'm the developer for this project between y'all and to the company.
So, and to expand to your comment, this is, and we do get pulled into that wind and solar piece a lot as well, because if you walk away from wind and solar, there's an issue, right? There's a lot of money spent. So what does this look like? And by the way, I started my career doing man camps in West Texas, so I understand when things shift, some people walk away. So we've got our agreement with Rocky Mountain Holdings, which holds the vast majority of their battery assets. So it's not a single entity LLC. The other piece with this, so the batteries themselves are full of precious metals, so their recycle value is quite high. Those will get recycled. The copper, the lithium, the steel, the aluminum in there will get recycled. You'll notice on here all the wires are underground. So that's copper, that'll get pulled up because its recycle value was quite high. What do you get left with? So on a site like this, you end up getting left with a 40-acre graded pad that's flat with a fence around it. We're happy to take the fence down. These do not cause a brownfield contamination. So when you walk away, it's a graded pad. I want to talk realistically though as well. About 10% of our total cost is going into substation equipment that connects to the grid. I do think it's unlikely this ever goes back just to pure dirt, just because there's so much money been spent in electrical equipment. It could go refrigerated distribution center. It could go some sort of expansion off that coal plant, you know, in the future, something like that. Something that uses a lot of electricity will probably always be there. Maybe a data center, I'm not sure. But I'd be lying to you if I said it would make sense to rip out substations 20 years in the future, just because that's such rare infrastructure. You can, and it's lucrative to do. I mean, they're worth a lot of money, but something will always want that dirt, likely moving forward.
The wires that's underground, are they protected in some type of protected
Sheath?
Right, to keep.
Yeah,
the
armadillos
energy
like to
from-
nibble on them,
Okay.
so they are protected. Apparently, they think they taste quite good.
They only do it once, I hear.
That's
though.
right, they only do it once, Judge.
Yeah. That, they can't pass that down generationally. That's-
Okay.
But yeah, somebody learned that mistake the hard way. Good question, though.
You guys may have some other questions. We'll come back to you in a minute, but I want to let our public go ahead and have some comments. First up, we have Lee Lester. I'll just hear whatever order I have, unless y'all want to go in a different order. Go ahead, Mr. Lester.
Thank y'all, Commissioners. My concern in all of this is everything that's happened in the Green New Deal. Everything seems great up front, but it's just like the wind turbines. There's no recycling. They're just doing it. You have to bury them. The fires that they've had in these energy systems cannot be put out. They just have to burn, and they put off toxic stuff. You have to evacuate people for 4 miles from it. That would exhaust the Sheriff's Department and many others in trying to evacuate the area. But what does it do to our livestock and other things? That's my concern, is all of this Green New Deal seems to be good on the front, and it definitely has some bad things as far as the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lester. Next up, Mr. Harmon.
I don't live anywhere close to this site, and I'm glad that I don't live anywhere close to this site. And I am concerned about the people that I know in that direction. And if we have an accident at this plant, and nothing that man can make is foolproof. And we've all seen industrial accidents, and we've seen things melt down on our TV set, and we've seen electric car battery fires, you know, on our TV sets or on Facebook or something like that. And it makes quite a mess, and it's quite a flash when it goes off. And I don't think I'd want to be anywhere close to that and anywhere close to the fumes of that. Now, I don't think these two fellas told us how big the footprint of all the batteries would be and how tall they would be, okay? So I'm supposing if they're in shipping containers, they're going to be something close to a number of shipping containers are 40 foot long or 50 foot long and 8 foot wide and 8 foot high on the inside. And I don't know how many of those there are going to be. I know they're operating on a 42-acre site, and I don't know how many acres of batteries there's going to be, but it's going to be considerably more battery than what's in an electric car. And an electric car may be some battery that weighs 500 or 600 pounds. I mean, this is just going to way outdo that. And if we have an accident and the fumes from the wind blow it in some direction. You know, we all live in this county, and I live in this county. I live almost in Marion County. My property borders the county line with Marion County, but the fumes from the smoke are going to blow towards somebody's house, whether it's blowing towards yours, Judge, or blowing towards any of the commissioner's house, and it's going to blow towards your precinct, depending on which way the wind blows that day, if we have an accident. And like I said, there's nothing that's foolproof. And I would much rather have another gas-fired plant like what's proposed at Perky right now, what I'm hearing, and I hope that happens. And I wish they'd build 2 instead of 1. And I know that this electricity, the man said it would last up to about 4 hours. And it sounds like it's needed on peak demand days. And that's when it's really hot or possibly really cold, peak demand days. And I know he talked about the money that the government could get from the tax money from it, but are the risks worth the money? You know, with the, it's bound to be toxic, okay? I don't know if they have a wind flag or a windsock at their site, if they're required to have one. But if they are required to have one, they're required to have them at a poisonous gas well, and you've got a lot of sour gas in certain locations, and they have windsocks there, and if they have a leak, they need to know which way the wind's blowing, if it's only blowing 2 or 3 miles an hour. Well, the fumes from a problem's going somewhere, and if this is a problem, the fumes are going to go somewhere. And it's not going to be good, you know, for a person to breathe it or get it in their skin, and it's not going to be good for the livestock, and it's not going to be good for the ground. But are we willing to trade that off for this? I don't know if y'all can stop it. If you can, I wish you would. If they're asking for an abatement, I wouldn't give them a nickel's worth of an abatement. Let them pay full taxes. They're here to make a profit. Why not capture all the tax money you can from them? And I'm not for it at all. I'm glad I don't live anywhere close to it. I live miles from it. And some of you that live here in town, the commissioners that live in town on precinct 1 and 2, you're a lot closer to it than I am, and in Hallville, you're a lot closer to it. You're quite a distance to it in the Legion Fields area, and you're quite a distance to it. But we're all breathe this air, and we'd like to breathe as healthy as air as we could get, instead of something that could be a problem to us if they have an accident, and things do happen. That's what I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Ms. Nancy White. Ms. White.
Okay, so my name is Nancy White. I live in Van Zandt County. A little bit about what brings me here is I actually work directly with the Texas Secure the Grid Committee as well as the National Secure the Grid Coalition. Matter of fact, I actually commend Peregrine because I think their technology is a great start in the right direction. Unfortunately, the technology is not ready. And to answer the question that you asked, how many do they have operational? If you didn't notice, the answer was none. He didn't say any specific site is operational. Also, to answer your question about Gillespie County, they are not confused about it being solar and wind. I work directly with them and their lawyers. They are aware of what the issues are, and they are concerned because they're building it next to a K-12 school. And they are concerned about the regulation and permits in reference to the location of those children because of evacuation. Now, the evacuation is stated in our National Fire Code Protection, NFPA 855. I will tell you, our fire marshal, they sent in their emergency plan. He did not accept it because it was not site-specific. On top of that, what you're looking at for further emphasis of lack of permit and regulation is in Van Zandt County. They are building it right on top of a federal pipeline that has diesel and jet fuel. I am currently working in Austin. I had a meeting with the governor, and this is something I'm going to tell you that I told the governor. I have a spreadsheet with 56 runaways that have occurred since 2020. Now, that might seem small, but when you're looking at this, you asked about environmental. EPA can only test for 2 of the toxic gases emitted out of the 7, and they admit that they can only test for 2. They even have evidence of where next to Moss Landing that he brought up, they have evidence that their sensors failed. As far as people being poisoned, I have direct contact with at least 2 of the 15 plus that tested positive with lithium poisoning in their blood. People were impacted. Livestock and cattle, livestock like goats and sheep, as well as cattle, are having stillbirths for genetic lines that have never had issue, right inside a 10-mile perimeter. Water has been proven to have arsenic and lithium at thousands of micron of levels. I have these lab reports. These are not directly from EPA. EPA had 22 sensors at Fredericktown, Missouri, whenever it caught fire. When they had state-of-the-art safety measures in place, they only released 7 of the 22. 9 of them failed, and they never released the others. So EPA is not providing all the information, so I would love to see those reports. I would love to see them, because we've asked for them multiple times, including senators and House representatives, to not still have the evidence. On top of that, what we're looking at is there are things you can do. They're not here yet. Right now, you are in our COG region for Van Zandt County. One of the things Van Zandt County is doing to ensure safety, welfare, and concerns of the citizens is utilizing Local Government Code 391, Sub-Regional Planning Commission. This has to do with builds to ensure that the citizens are safe. They are not afraid of what's being near their home. If they're building it next to a school, next to a primary water source, for instance, in Van Zandt County again, we have the reservoir for Cedar Creek Lake within 1,900 feet of that build. It's about a quarter mile. We have evidence of impact from Moss Landing, and again, these are not the same batteries, he's absolutely correct. That impact was 30 miles out. Not 1, not 2, 30 miles out. The individual that had lithium poisoning in her blood, Heather Griffin, she's 8 miles out from that build because of that wind. And to be clear, that activated January 16th. It is still off-gassing today. And they're talking about not being able to clear that out for another year. I'm not saying that the technology or idea doesn't have relevance. It does. But the technology makes it to where the cons outweigh the pros. And to emphasize further, the reason that solar and wind are being paired into the batteries is because the reason our grid is failing is because at sunrise and sunset, when we have to pick up the lack of solar and wind, we have to kick on an additional source. When you turn on your AC in your house, what's the highest draw? When your HVAC kicks on. When they kick that on at sunrise and sunset, and oil and coal and gas have to step in to pick up where batteries and solar and wind are lacking, batteries are to offset that. And to go a step further, and I'm going to quote the U.S. Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, solar, wind, batteries, and transmission are a colossal failure to the American people. It has cost the American people trillions of dollars in money for 3% of energy, and increased the cost of electricity and decreased the reliability of our grid. Now, I heard them speak, and they gave you a lot of things, and he even admitted it himself. It is a pitch. They want you to buy their product. They are pitching you something, and I say if it's too good to be true, it probably is. I do not doubt that they have good intent. Their business is good, but at the end of the day, it's money-based. Even if your county receives $8 million in tax credits, is that going to be enough for the $270+ million that you're going to have to pay for cleanup and residuals and remediation after the fact? And according to Walter West, who is a known expert in reference to risk management and assessment, he said even if you clear 3 football fields wide and a story down, you will never get all of the minerals out of that land. And as you just heard him say, that will never be used for agricultural land ever again. You lost that land. And that's minimum, just that one, no impact to others. And also EPRI, which is known for the studies of these, if you put 55, and this is the part where I told the governor, if you put 55 plus battery fires in a spreadsheet, and you list 60% of them as the problem for the fire being the systems itself, so the control systems within the batteries, within the first years when you have the most fires, when they connect to the transmission lines, when they go into operation, it's in the first year, 60% being control systems or the equipment itself, 40% having no known root cause. If you were to, we told him, you need to get a spreadsheet. You need to put them all in one database so you can determine what the issue is to fix it. Because if you're not looking at all of them together, how are you fixing it? So if EPRI states this is the reason and you have 56 fires and 40% of them, you don't even know what caused it, and 60% of them is the system itself, would you still have it operational? No. So the truth is that it's a great technology, but the truth is on top of that is it's not ready. Thank you.
Let's see. I know our fire marshal is here, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. Jamie, do you have any questions, anything that you'd like to ask?
I would like to sit down with this gentleman at Lane, discuss it further.
Sure.
I'd like to discuss before, I'd like to get both sides before, so I can make an informative decision.
I think they're gonna hang around, so happy to have you stick around as well. I'd like to ask you guys back up if you'd like to respond to any of those, or not. And if you commissioners have any additional questions, please go ahead now.
Okay, I think I heard, say that this was not a part of the Green New Deal. Did I hear that?
Correct. The batteries in the premise and even BESS systems were started to be designed years and years before that. They operate independently.
Okay, and the questions that I've asked is because of the people that live in that area, to make sure that no damage to the livestock, especially our children, would be affected by any of this if it was to pass. The area that you are talking about putting it in is in precinct 2. And
is it 3?
Is it? Well,
it's 2 or 3.
It's 2 or 3.
Yeah.
It's so close that
Yeah.
we're
It abuts the power plant land down there.
Right, but 2.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Precinct 2. And so my concern is the safety and welfare of the citizens that live in that area. You bought us data.
Yeah.
And some bought us words. I'd like to see more about, or maybe you can talk on it more about the safety issues here to our citizens that live in that area. We don't want something going up in that area that's going to be harmful.
Understood,
then
and
they'll
rightfully
look back
so.
at this court, and they'll say, "You guys,"
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, understood. I think that's a great comment. I want to address that and some of the previous questions. So on this site, you have about 17 acres that would actually have a battery on it. That's not dense. You'll notice that each one of these, it does look like a shipping container is separated from the next one on all sides. If there ever is a thermal runaway that creates a fire, that's so it can't daisy chain one to another. That's what got Moss Landing in trouble. They had stacked them, and then some were inside buildings. So when one caught on fire, that heat built up, jumped to the next one, right? So that's just a fundamental design flaw that does not occur anymore. And I want to talk briefly about what we're looking at the end. What has to happen to get to an end, right? So these are monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so somebody has to miss that. The 3 redundancies also have to fail. And then if all that's failed, so we've already had full failures there. One of them catching on fire is roughly about half of a house fire as far as what goes up in it. And we can break down with the fire marshal on that and get them the data. Spray that out. It does take about a day to burn out, and that's the fastest way to mitigate it is to let it burn. Because if you spray water on a lithium fire, it does nothing. But let's talk about that. We've worked through the fire plan with the fire marshal. They know where to spray the water. They know how to mitigate it, and from a public safety risk. The best data that we do have is from the EPA in the California Department of Air and Water Quality, and so we'll absolutely share that with you to go through it. The purpose is that if there is a plume, it does disperse, just like any smoke fire. If you put your head in front of a bonfire, you're going to smell a whole bunch of smoke. You know, if you're downwind a couple hundred yards, you'll get a whiff of it if you're right with the wind. But what we've seen is just same thing as a house fire. How Moss Landing got in trouble, that was a entire facility that was actually larger than ours that went up at the exact same time. The only data that we do have from the monitoring says that still wasn't harmful to people. And so we're going off the data that we have in and the data that we'll share to you. We're open to other data that comes in. Some of the other sites, they are adjacent to schools, churches, hospitals, and everything in between. New Orleans is in such a pickle. These will go right near Bourbon Street. They'll go pretty close to downtown. Keep in mind, battery technology. We all walk around with this in our phone every day. So their technology is a little more advanced. I've never worried about that catching on fire. So we're surrounded by batteries at all times. It is new, though. It is something that we take very seriously, and that's why we'll follow whatever is the absolute state-of-art fire code at that time when this one goes in. Likely that fire code isn't out yet. Almost assuredly that fire code isn't out yet. I'm sure there'll be revisions following Moss Landing that come out in the because they're always staggered. So it'll be maybe 25 or 26, we'll get the 24 code. So at a minimum, it'll be that, if not more. And we're going to work with the fire marshal, and they'll get up-to-date training, both initially, they'll have a fire response team, and annually. I will point out, Peregrine has not filed a fire response plan with the fire marshal in Gillespie County. We haven't even got there yet. But they'll address that project when it gets there. So it's new, and I think there'll be an education component here in relation to, do you want to build a whole bunch of gas plants, and do the rates go up and down? We can share that information with you too. The purpose of these is to empty the 4 hours every day, because that's your peaking rate, and that's what you want to offset. It's not either or. You don't have to pick and support gas or batteries. We love pairing with batteries, coal. Nuclear, you can't really pair these with because nuclear is just perfectly flat the entire time. Question came up, would batteries have been developed if it wasn't for wind and solar? Yes, still likely. Otherwise, you'd have to build a whole lot more gas plants in Texas. And they are. So it'll be, Peregrine's approach, and my personal approach is, it's not wind, not solar, not gas, not coal. It's, answer E, all the above, is probably what gets us out of this electrical pickle we're in. Again, so we've got a whole bunch of data that we'll send you. If you have questions or concerns anytime or in the future, shoot them to myself, shoot them to the team. We're happy to get you that data back. We're happy to get as granular as you'd like. And certainly
He just stepped out.
I'll find him before I leave the county. We'll connect him. We've got our fire safety engineers that can connect with them. We've never had a fire marshal push against the project, not yet. So that is not one issue that we faced. We'll get in front of it. Again, thank you for your time. Any other questions?
Thank y'all for coming in. You
Yeah.
have something?
I'd just like to say, I don't think that I don't want you to think that we're sitting here against. I think
absolutely not.
what scares
No.
us the most for me is that I don't want Harrison County to be a guinea pig, and then us down the road find out that we as a commissioners court made a bad call that created something when we're no longer here. So I think it's important that we get as much data as we can get, and when you Google it, which I've been for 2 or 3 weeks, naturally what you get is the worst case scenario. So,
Could I get you a list of all the ones that are operational in the
Yeah, I'd
U.S.?
like
Locations, please.
Yeah, let's do that.
if you would.
Yeah. All right.
And make that information available.
Ken,
Yeah.
I would like a copy of the very dual EPA report as well as the locations. And do you all have that with you?
No, not honest. It's a thick report. It's a PDF. It's the easiest way to share it. We'll start circulating it.
Very good. Well, part of this process has to be information, and you guys, I appreciate you coming and sharing with us today. We had a lot of questions, and you addressed those, and I appreciate you doing that. Anything else from you guys, you commissioners? I
Is
don't think
y'all's
so.
contact in this little pass out that you give us today?
No, sir.
Okay.
We can hand you cards.
I've got their emails as well.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. If there is nothing further, we have one last item here. Who'd like to make the motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Timmons. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes 5-0. It is 10:46 a.m. We're adjourned.
I wanted